When silence became a weapon. The universal language. The Galactic Union had been at peace for 3,000 years. Every species in the known universe communicated through the Harmony Network, a sophisticated system that translated thoughts directly into understanding. Words were unnecessary. Sound was primitive. The galaxy operated in perfect, silent efficiency. Then humanity arrived, and everything changed. Ambassador Elena Torres stood in the Grand Chamber of the Union Council, surrounded by beings from 100 different worlds. The crystal and the ricks shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. The gaseous vole floated in their containment spheres. The insectoid creche clicked their mandibles in perfect mathematical rhythms. All of them communicated through the Harmony Network, their thoughts flowing seamlessly into each other's minds. Elena did something none of them expected. She opened her mouth and spoke. "Hello. My name is Elena Torres, and I represent humanity." The reaction was immediate. Council members recoiled. Some covered their auditory sensors. Others flickered with colors that indicated distress. The Harmony Network itself seemed to stutter, overwhelmed by the crude vibrations emanating from the human. "Stop that noise," demanded High Chancellor ZYX, the Rix whose crystalline body pulsed with agitated orange light. "Why do you assault us with these physical vibrations? Use the Harmony Network like a civilized being." Elena smiled patiently. "We tried. The Harmony Network doesn't work with human brains. Our minds are too chaotic, too emotional, too unpredictable. So we use sound instead. We call it speech." The chamber erupted in silent mental chaos. The concept was horrifying to them. Humanity couldn't use the Harmony Network? They were basically deaf and mute by galactic standards. How could such a primitive species have developed space travel? The approaching storm. 3 weeks later, the reason for humanity's urgent admission to the Galactic Union became clear. The Devourers were coming. They arrived from deep space, a fleet of living ships that consumed everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire solar systems disappeared into their endless hunger. The Devourers had no minds to connect with, no thoughts to read through the Harmony Network. They were pure instinct and appetite. The Union's defense forces mobilized, but they faced a terrible problem. Their entire military infrastructure relied on silent coordination through the Harmony Network. Ships communicated instantly across vast distances. Commanders issued orders with the speed of thought. Soldiers moved in perfect synchronized harmony. But the Devourers disrupted the Harmony Network simply by existing. Their biological presence created a kind of static, a mental fog that made thought communication impossible within light years of their position. The first Union fleet that engaged the Devourers was destroyed in minutes. Without the Harmony Network, the ships couldn't coordinate. Captains made individual decisions that conflicted with each other. Weapons fired at wrong targets. Ships collided with their own allies. In the aftermath, High Chancellor ZYX made an emergency visit to the human diplomatic station. Elena met him in her simple office, so different from the grand crystalline halls of the Union. "We need your help," ZYX said through his translation device, refusing to make the crude sounds himself. "Your species fights without the Harmony Network. You must teach us how." Elena leaned back in her chair. "You want us to teach the entire Galactic Union how to use sound communication? That could take decades. You don't have decades. Then what do you propose? Let humanity fight for you." ZYX's crystalline body flickered with confusion. "Your species numbers barely 3 billion. The Union has trillions of citizens. How can you possibly defend us?" Elena stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Because we've been fighting in silence for our entire history. Every human battle, every human war, was won with sound. We shout orders across battlefields. We scream war cries to frighten our enemies. We whisper strategies in the dark. Sound is our weapon, High Chancellor. And it's the one weapon the Devourers can't take away." The human fleet. 2 weeks later, Earth's entire defensive fleet arrived at the edge of Union space. 50 ships, all of them small by galactic standards. Ancient by Union technology. The largest vessel, the carrier Defiance, was barely half the size of a standard Union cruiser. But as the human fleet took position, something unprecedented happened. Sound filled the void. Human ships communicated through radio waves, electromagnetic signals that carried actual voices. Captains spoke to each other in dozens of languages, their words translated by simple computer programs. Crew members sang work songs while loading weapons. Engineers shouted instructions over the noise of machinery. The Union observers were horrified and fascinated in equal measure. How could anyone function in such chaos? How could they coordinate when every message required seconds or even minutes to transmit? Admiral Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Defiance, his command transmitted not through thought but through an ancient intercom system. All ships, this is Webb. Devourer fleet detected at coordinates 77 Alpha. Remember your training. Remember why we're here. Let's show them what noise can do. The human fleet moved forward, and every ship broadcast the same thing, music. It started with drums, a deep rhythmic pounding that resonated across every frequency. Then guitars, synthesizers, brass instruments, and human voices singing in harmony. The sound wasn't just communication, it was declaration, intimidation, and art all combined. The Devourers had never encountered anything like it. Their biological sensors, designed to detect thought patterns and neural energy, were overwhelmed by the pure physical vibration. They couldn't filter it out. They couldn't understand it. The sound confused their targeting systems and disrupted their coordination. The Battle of Silent Stars. When the two fleets met, the humans fought with a kind of chaos the Union had never witnessed. There was no elegant synchronized movement, no perfect tactical harmony. Ships broke formation deliberately, each captain making split-second decisions based on incomplete information and gut instinct. Defiance to Ranger, you've got 3 hostiles on your 6. Ranger copies, executing corkscrew evasion, somebody cover my tail. Apollo moving to assist, firing missiles in 3, 2, 1. The Devourers, accustomed to fighting enemies that moved with predictable precision, couldn't adapt to human unpredictability. When a Union fleet would have executed a perfect flanking maneuver, the humans simply scattered and attacked from random angles. When logic dictated retreat, humans pushed forward with aggressive battle cries broadcast on every channel. Admiral Webb stood at the center of his bridge, calling out orders while simultaneously listening to reports from a dozen ships. His mind processed the chaos instinctively, finding patterns in the noise that no computer could calculate. All fighters, converge on the lead Devourer ship. Marines, prepare for boarding action. Engineering, I need every weapon we've got charged and ready. Communications, broadcast the anthem. Across the fleet, every human ship began playing Earth's battle anthem, a piece of music composed specifically for this moment. It combined sounds from every human culture, drums from Africa, strings from Asia, horns from Europe, chants from indigenous peoples worldwide. The Devourers' biological systems couldn't process it. Their formation began to break apart. The human Marines boarded Devourer ships in small teams, communicating through simple helmet radios. They moved through the organic corridors, shooting and shouting, their voices echoing in spaces designed for silent telepathic coordination. Contact left. Grenade out. Section 7 clear, moving to Section 8. It was crude, chaotic, and inefficient by Union standards. But it worked. The turning point. 3 hours into the battle, the Devourer fleet began to retreat. It was unprecedented. The Devourers had never retreated from any engagement in recorded history. But they were retreating from humanity. High Chancellor ZYX watched from the safety of a Union observation station, his crystalline form pulsing with colors that indicated profound confusion and reluctant respect. They're winning, he said to his advisors. The humans are actually winning. One of his military commanders, a Kresh named Tick, responded through the Harmony network, their method is chaotic and unpredictable. They should not be successful. Yet they are. Because chaos is their nature, ZYX realized. We spent 3,000 years eliminating chaos from our civilization. We created perfect order, perfect silence, perfect harmony. And in doing so, we became vulnerable to any force that disrupts that order. The humans never had that weakness, Tick observed. They've been fighting in chaos since they first developed consciousness. As the last Devourer ships fled into deep space, Admiral Webb's voice crackled over the communication channel to the Union station. High Chancellor, this is Admiral Webb. Hostile fleet has been repelled. Minimal casualties on our side. We're standing by for further orders. ZYX activated his translation device, forcing himself to create sound. The words came out awkward and stilted. Admiral Webb. The Union, thanks you. What are your terms? Webb's laugh echoed through the channel, a sound that still made Union observers flinch. Terms? We didn't fight for terms, Chancellor. We fought because it was the right thing to do. But if you're offering, I'd say the galaxy could use a little more noise. The Symphony of War. Teaching the unteachable. 6 months after the Battle of Silent Stars, the Galactic Union faced an uncomfortable truth: humanity had saved them, and now they needed to learn from their saviors. The Grand Military Academy on the Rix Prime, the Union's oldest and most prestigious institution, opened its doors to human instructors for the first time in its 10,000-year history. The scene was almost comical, beings who had never spoken aloud in their entire lives attempting to form words with organs not designed for speech. Commander Sarah Chen stood before a class of Union military officers, watching them struggle with basic verbal communication. A vole was trying to modulate their gaseous form to create vibrations. Etherix's crystalline structure kept shattering when they attempted to produce the wrong frequency. A Kresh clicked their mandibles in patterns that roughly approximated human words but sounded like a broken typewriter. Again, Sarah said patiently. Remember, you're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to be understood. Say it with me: enemy approaching from the north. The class attempted the phrase in unison. The result was a discordant mess of sounds that barely resembled human language. Better, Sarah lied encouragingly. Let's try it faster this time. In battle, you won't have time to think about every syllable. The Rix officer raised their appendage. Instructor Chen, this is inefficient. Through the Harmony Network, I could convey the same information plus tactical analysis, enemy strength estimates, and suggested responses in the time it takes to say those 5 words. You're absolutely right, Sarah agreed. Sound is slower, less precise, and more prone to misunderstanding than thought communication. But it works when the Harmony Network doesn't. That makes it the most important skill you can learn. The second wave. The Devourers returned 8 months after their first defeat, and this time they brought reinforcements. 3 massive fleets emerged from deep space simultaneously, attacking Union colonies across a dozen systems. High Chancellor ZYX stood in the war chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching threat. For the first time in Union history, the chamber wasn't silent. Officers shouted reports to each other, their voices awkward but functional. Fleet Delta reports engagement in the cross system. Civilian evacuations at 60% in Sector 9. We need reinforcements at. The cacophony was overwhelming to beings accustomed to the elegant silence of thought communication. But it was working. Information flowed chaotically but constantly. Admiral Webb appeared on the main display, broadcasting from the Defiance. Chancellor, we're detecting a new Devourer variant. Larger, better armored, and they're adapting to our sound tactics. They're creating biological dampening fields that absorb acoustic waves. ZYX forced himself to respond verbally, his words clearer now after months of practice. What do you recommend? We need to evolve too. I'm sending you our new operational plan. Codename, Symphony Protocol. The symphony begins. Symphony Protocol was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of treating sound as simple communication, humans had weaponized it completely. Every Union ship received upgraded systems that could generate and manipulate sound waves at unprecedented levels. But these weren't random noises, they were coordinated, deliberate, and devastatingly effective. The human fleet arrived at the besieged cross system and immediately began the symphony. Lead ships projected low-frequency vibrations that resonated with the Devourer's biological armor, creating microscopic fractures. Support vessels followed with high-frequency pulses that exploited those fractures, shattering entire sections of enemy ships. Fighter craft broadcasted interference patterns that confused Devourer navigation systems. But the most devastating weapon was human music itself. Every culture throughout human history had created music for battle. War drums, battle hymns, marching songs, orchestral pieces designed to inspire courage and strike fear. Humans had taken these ancient traditions and transformed them into actual weapons. The Union ships, crewed by officers who had learned to vocalize, joined the symphony. The Rick's commander, whose crystalline body could resonate at perfect pitch, became a living sonic weapon. Vol pilots who could modulate their gaseous forms created harmonics that disrupted Devourer communications. Crush gunners clicked their mandibles in rapid-fire rhythms that confused enemy targeting systems. Commander Chen stood on the bridge of the Union vessel Harmony's end, coordinating the attack through a combination of verbal orders and musical cues. Section Alpha, Percussion Pattern 7. Section Beta, Follow with Brass Response. All ships, crescendo on my mark. The battle became something unprecedented in galactic history: warfare as performance art, violence as music, death as symphony. The Devourer's adaptation. But the Devourers were learning too. Their newest variants began developing biological structures that could generate countersounds, attempting to cancel out human acoustic weapons. Admiral Webb watched the tactical display with growing concern. They're evolving faster than we predicted. At this rate, they'll be immune to our sonic weapons within weeks. Elena Torres, now serving as senior strategic advisor, stood beside him. Then we need to teach them the most important lesson about human sound. What's that? That it's not just about the noise. It's about what the noise means. She opened a channel to every ship in the combined Human Union fleet. All vessels, all species, this is Ambassador Torres. What I'm about to ask you might seem strange, but I need everyone, human, the Ricks, Vol, Kresh, everyone, to do something together. I need you to sing. Confused silence followed. I know most of you have never sung in your lives. I know it feels awkward and unnecessary. But trust me. I'm transmitting lyrics in every language. Simple words. Universal meaning. When I give the signal, I want every single being on every single ship to sing together. The words appeared on displays across the fleet. We stand together. We fight as one. We are not silent. Until this war is won. The final battle. The largest Devourer fleet ever assembled arrived at Earth itself, a planet the Union had initially dismissed as unimportant but that had become the symbol of resistance against the consuming darkness. The combined fleet of humanity and the Union formed a defensive sphere around humanity's homeworld. Thousands of ships, millions of crew members, representing 100 different species that had learned to make noise together. Admiral Webb gave the order. All ships. On my mark. Begin. And they sang. It started quietly, uncertainly. Alien voices attempting human melodies. Human voices trying to harmonize with crystalline resonances and gaseous modulations and clicking rhythms. It should have been a discordant mess. Instead, it was beautiful. The song wasn't just sound, it carried meaning, emotion, defiance. Every species contributed their own unique voice to the chorus. The Ricks added crystalline chimes that made the melody shimmer. The Vol created harmonics that no human throat could produce. The Kresh's rhythmic clicking became percussion that drove the beat forward. And for the first time, the Devourers stopped. Their massive ships, which had consumed countless worlds, simply halted in space. Their biological sensors, designed to detect fear and prey, encountered something they had never experienced: unity expressed through sound. The Devourers weren't intelligent in the traditional sense. They were ancient biological machines, programmed eons ago to consume all organic matter. But even machines can be confused when they encounter something outside their programming. The song wasn't just noise. It was proof of civilization, of cooperation, of species so different they shouldn't be able to work together, managing to create something beautiful despite their differences. The Devourer's simple programming couldn't process it. Were these beings food? Or were they something else entirely? The peace of sound. The Devourers retreated from Earth and never returned. The galaxy would debate for centuries whether they were driven off by the sonic weapon or simply confused into leaving. But the humans and Union knew the truth: it was both. In the years that followed, the Galactic Union transformed. The Harmony Network remained the primary form of communication, but sound became equally important. New species joining the Union were taught both methods. Music became a universal language alongside thought. The Grand Military Academy added a new motto, written in every language: in silence, we coordinate. In sound, we exist. High Chancellor ZYX stood in his private chamber, looking at a small human instrument called a guitar. He had spent months learning to create sounds with it, a skill that would have been considered absurd just years earlier. He plucked a string awkwardly, creating a single clear note. Elena Torres, visiting from Earth, smiled. "That's a good start, Chancellor. Give it a few more years, and you'll be writing your own songs." "Perhaps," ZYX said, his words now flowing smoothly in spoken language. "Or perhaps I will simply appreciate the noise others make." "Your species taught the galaxy an important lesson, Ambassador." "What's that?" "That silence is not the same as peace. True harmony comes not from the absence of sound, but from all voices being heard." Elena nodded. "Even the chaotic, messy, imperfect ones?" "Especially those," ZYX agreed. "After all, chaos is just another word for possibility." Above them, Earth continued its eternal rotation, a planet that had saved the galaxy not with superior technology or ancient wisdom, but with something far simpler: the courage to make noise in a universe that had forgotten how to listen. And across the stars, the symphony continued, billions of voices from hundreds of worlds, all singing their own songs, all part of the same beautiful, chaotic, perfect noise.